Hello friends, today we will learn about proteins. Proteins were first described by Dutch chemist Gerhard Hadas Johannes Mulder and named by the Swedish chemist John Jacob Berzelius in 1838. Proteins are large biological molecules or macromolecules consisting of one or more long chains of amino acid residues. The amino acids in a polypeptide chain are linked by polypeptide bonds. Once linked in the protein chain, an individual amino acid is called a residue, and the linked series of carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen atoms are known as the main chain or protein backbone. The peptide bond has two resonance forms that contribute some double bond character and inhibit rotation around its axis so that the alpha carbons are roughly co- coplanar. coplanar. The other two dihedral angles in the polypeptide bond determine the local shape assumed by the protein backbone. The end of the protein with a free carboxyl group is known as the C terminal, means carbon terminal, or carboxy terminus, whereas the end with a free amino group is known as the N terminus or amino terminus. Amino acids linked together by peptide bonds form a peptide chain. One or more polypeptide chains twisted into a 3D shape form a protein. There are two general classes of protein molecules, globular proteins and fibrous proteins. Globular proteins are generally compact, soluble, and spherical in shape. Fibrous proteins are typically elongated and insoluble. Globular and fibrous protein may exhibit one or more four types of protein structure. These structure types are called primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structure. Let's know about amino acids. There are 22 standard amino acids, but only 21 are found in eukaryotes. Of the 22, 20 are directly encoded by the universal genetic code, and humans can synthesize 11 of these 20 from each other or from other molecules of intermediary metabolism. The other 9 must be consumed in the diet and so are called essential amino acids. Those are histine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine. The remaining two, selenocysteine and pyrrolysine, are incorporated into proteins by unique synthetic mechanisms. Each alpha amino acids consists of a backbone part that is present in all amino acid types and a side chain that is unique to each type of residue. Because the carbon atom is bound to four different groups, it is chiral. Glycine, however, is not chiral since its side chain is a hydrogen atom. A simple mnemonic for correct L form is corn. When the C alpha atom, carbon alpha atom, is viewed with the hydrogen in front, the residue read corn, CORN, in a clockwise direction. Let's know about the protein isomerism. Isomerism in protein. The standard alpha amino acids, all but glycine, can exist in either of two optical isomers called L or D amino acids, which are mirror images of each other. While L amino acids represent all of the amino acids found in proteins during translation in the ribosome, D amino acids are found in some proteins produced by enzyme post-translational modifications after translation and translocation to the endoplasmic reticulum, as in exotic sea dwelling organisms such as cone snails. They are also abundant components of the peptidoglycan cell walls of bacteria, and D-serine may act as a neurotransmitter in the brain. Optical activity and stereochemistry of amino acids. With the exception of glycine, all the 19 other common amino acids have a uniquely different functional group on the central tetrahedral alpha carbon. The carbon alpha is termed C alpha is termed chiral to indicate their four different constituents, and that the C alpha is asymmetric. Since C alpha is asymmetric, there exist two possible non superimposable and mirror image of the amino acids. Glyceraldehyde contains a chiral carbon, and therefore there are two enantiomers of this molecule. One is labeled the L form and the other is D form. This is the frame of reference used to describe amino acid enantiomers as being either the L or D form. Spectroscopic properties of amino acids. Let's know about spectroscopic properties of amino acids. This refers to the ability of the amino acids to absorb or emit electromagnetic energy at different wavelengths. No amino acids absorb light in the visible spectrum. If proteins have color, it is because they contain a bound non-protein atom, ionic or molecule iron in this case. All amino acids absorb in the infrared region, that is longer wavelengths, weaker energy than visible light. Some amino acids absorb in the ultraviolet spectrum, that means shorter wavelengths, higher energy than visible light. Absorption occurs as electrons rise to higher energy states. Electrons in aromatic ring structures absorb in the ultraviolet spectrum. Such structures comprises the side chains of tryptophan, tyrosine and phenylalanine. Optical activity is measured by polarimeter. The magnitude of the optical activity is measured as an angle of rotation. A quantitative measure of the optical activity of the molecule is known as its optical rotation. Optical rotation of an optically active compound depend on the concentration of the compound, light path length, the wavelength of the polarized light and the temperature. Hence, experimentally measured alpha is always converted to and expressed as the specific rotation. That is alpha to the power T D. The optical rotation of a solution at a given temperature and wavelength is given by alpha T D equals to A degree divided by Ix C. I into C. A0 equals to observed rotation in degrees, alpha Td equals to the specific rotation of compound at temperature T, that is in degrees or Celsius, and wavelength is lambda in nm, and if the wavelength of light used is 589 nanometer, the symbol D is used, alpha Td, and C is the concentration of solution in gram per milliliter, gram per ml, and L is the light path length in decimeter. Let's know about isoelectric point. The isoelectric focusing, or also called the PI of the protein, is the pH at which its net charge is 0. A separation technique which separates peptides according to how acidic and basic their residues are. Molecules to be focused are distributed over a medium that has a pH gradient. An electric current is passed through the medium, creating a positive anode and negative cathode end. The negatively charged molecules the negatively charged molecules migrate through the pH gradient in the medium toward the positive end, while positively charged molecule move towards the negative end. As a particle moves towards the pole opposite of its charge, it moves through the changing pH gradient until it reaches a point in which the pH of that molecule's isoelectric point is reached. At this point, the molecule no longer has a net electric charge. The method is applied in the study of protein, which separate based on their relative content of acid and basic residues, whose value is represented by pi. Proteins are introduced into an immobilized pH gradient gel composed of polyacrylamide starch or agarose where a pH gradient has been established. Isoelectric focusing can resolve proteins that differ in pi value by as little as 0.01. Isoelectric focusing is the first step in two-dimensional gel electrophoresis in which proteins are first separated by their pi and then further separated by molecular weight through SDS page. Determine pi of each amino acid when we know as pKa by titration with NaOH, sodium hydroxide. For example, glycine, the smallest amino acid, has 2 pKa value, which has 2.34 and 9.60 respectively. Now pi equals to 2.34 plus 9.60 divided by 2 equals to 5.97. Why? Because pi equals to, there is a rule, that is pi equals to pKa1 plus pKa2 divided by 2. Let's know about classification of amino acids. Amino acids are usually classified by the properties of their side chain into 4 groups. The side chain can make an amino acid a weak acid or a weak base, and a hydrophile if the side chain is polar, or a hydrophobe if it is nonpolar. Protein amino acids are combined to a single polypeptide chain in a condensation reaction. This reaction is catalyzed by the ribosome in a process known as translation. Let's know about polypeptide bond. Let's know about peptide bond. A peptide bond is a covalent chemical bond formed between two molecules when the carboxyl group of one molecule reacts with the amino group of the other molecule, thereby releasing a molecule of water. This is a dehydration synthesis reaction and usually occurs between amino acids. The resulting CONH bond is called a peptide bond, and the resulting molecule is an amide. A peptide bond can be broken by amide hydrolysis. The peptide bonds in proteins are metastable, meaning that in the presence of water they will break spontaneously, releasing 2 to 4 kilocalorie per mole of free energy, but this process is extremely slow. In living organisms, the process is facilitated by enzymes. Living organisms also employ enzymes to form peptide bonds. This process requires free energy. The wavelength of observance for a peptide bond is 190 to 230 nanometer nm. The peptide bond tend to be planar due to the delocalization of electrons from the double bond. The rigid peptide dihedral angle omega, the bond between C1 and N, is always close to 180 degree. The dihedral angle phi, the bond between N and C alpha, and psi, the bond between C alpha and C1 can have a certain range of possible values. These angles are the internal degree of freedom of a protein. They control the protein's conformation. Let's know about protein structure labels. Structurally, proteins can be divided into four parts, that is primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary structure of protein. Let's know about primary structure level of protein. Primary structure of a protein refers to the linear sequence of the amino acid in the polypeptide chain. The primary structure is held together by covalent bonds such as peptide bonds, which are made during the process of protein biosynthesis or translation. The two ends of the polypeptide chain are referred to as carboxyl terminus, that is C terminus, and the amino terminus, that is N, in short N terminus, based on the nature of the free group on each extremity. Continued counting of residues always starts at the N terminal end, that is NH2 group, which is the end where the amino group is not involved in a peptide bond. It is strictly recommended to use the words amino acid residues when discussing proteins, because when a peptide bond is formed, a water molecule is lost. So proteins are made up of amino acid residues. The sequence of a protein can be determined by methods such as Edman degradation or tandem mass spectrometry. Post-translational modifications such as disulfide bond formation, phosphorylations, and glycosylations are usually also considered a part of the primary structure and cannot be read from gene. For example, insulin is composed of 51 amino acids in two chains. One chain has 31 amino acids and the other has 20 amino acids, but there is an additional feature in the protein which is also covalently bound. It involves the amino acid cysteine. If two cysteine side chains end up next to each other because of the folding in the peptide chain, they can react to form a sulfur bridge. This is another covalent link, and so some people count it as a part of primary structure of the protein. Because of the way sulfur bridge affect the way the protein folds, other people count this as a part of tertiary structure. Let's know about secondary structure. The term secondary structure refers to the interaction of the hydrogen bond donor and acceptor residues of the repeating peptide unit. The two most important secondary structures of proteins, the alpha helix and the beta sheet, were predicted by the American chemist Linus Pauling in the early 1950s. Pauling and his associates recognized that folding of peptide chains, among the other criteria, should preserve the bond angles and planar configuration of the peptide bond, as well as keep atoms from coming together so closely that they repelled each other through van der Waals reactions. Finally, Pauling predicted that hydrogen bonds must be able to stabilize the folding of the peptide backbone. The secondary structure, the se- two secondary structures, alpha helix and the beta plated sheet. Although hydrogen bonds are always between carbon double bond oxygen and hydrogen single bond nitrogen groups, the exact pattern of them is different in an alpha helix and a beta plated sheet. Alpha helix. Let's know about Alpha helix. Alpha helix involves regularly spaced hydrogen bonds between the residues along a chain. The amide hydrogen and the carbonyl oxygen of a peptide bond are hydrogen bond donors and acceptors respectively. The alpha helix is right-handed when the chain is followed from the amino to the carboxyl direction. Helices are characterized by the number of residues per turn. In the alpha helix, there is not an integral number of amino acid residues per turn in the helix. There are 3 to 3.6 residues per turn in the alpha helix. In other words, the helix will repeat itself every 36 residues with 10 turns of the helix in that interval. Beta sheets. Let's know about beta sheet. The beta sheet involves hydrogen bonds between backbone residues in adjacent chains. In the beta sheet, a single chain forms hydrogen bonds with its neighboring chains with the donor and acceptor are terms pointing sideways rather than along the chain as in the alpha helix. Beta sheets can be either parallel, where the chains point in the same direction when represented in the A amino to carboxyl terminus, or antiparallel, where the amino to carboxyl directions of the adjacent chains point in the same direction. Helix formers include alanine, cysteine, leucine, methionine, glutamic acid, glutamine, histidine, and lysine. Beta formers include valine, isoleucine, phenylalanine, tyrosine, tryptophan, and threonine. Serine, glycine, aspartic acid, aspargine, and proline are found most often in turns. No relationship is apparent between the chemical nature of the amino acid side chain and the existence of amino acid in one structure or another. For example, glue and GLU and glutaril or aspargine are closely related chemically, yet the former is likely to be found in helices and the latter in turns. Rationalizing the fact that gly and proteins, glycine and GLY and PRO are found in turns is somewhat easier. Glycine has only a single hydrogen atom for its side chain. Because of this, glycine peptide bond is more flexible than those of the other amino acids. This flexibility allows glycine to form turns between secondary structural elements. Conversely, proline, because it contains a secondary amino group, forms rigid peptide bonds that cannot be accommodated in either alpha or beta helices. Let's know about fibrous and globular proteins. The large-scale characteristics of proteins are consistent with their secondary structures. Proteins can be either fibrous or globular. Fibrous proteins are usually important in forming biological structures. For example, collagen forms part of the matrix upon which cells are arranged in animal tissues. The fibrous protein keratin forms structures such as hair and fingernails. The structures of keratin illustrate the importance of secondary structure in giving proteins their overall properties. Alpha keratin is found in sheep wool. The springy nature of wool is based on its composition of alpha helices that are coiled around and cross-linked to each other through cysteine residues. Chemical reduction of the cysteine in keratin to form cysteines breaks the crosslinks. Subsequent oxidation of the cysteines allows new crosslinks to form. This simple chemical reaction sequence is used in beauty shops and home permanent products to restructure and the restructure curl of human hair The reducing agent accounts for the characteristic order of these products. Beta carotene, beta keratin is found in bird feathers and human fingernails. The more brittle, flat structure of these body parts is determined by beta keratin being composed of beta seeds almost exclusively. Let's know about the tertiary structure of protein. Tertiary structure of protein is a description of the complex and irregular folding of the peptide chain in three dimensions. This final shape is determined by a variety of bonding interactions between the side chains on the amino acids. These bonding interactions may be stronger than the hydrogen bonds between amide groups holding the helical structure. As a result, bonding interactions between side chains may cause a number of folds, bends, and loops in the protein chain. Different fragments in the same chain may become bonded together. This complex structure is held together by a combination of several molecular interactions that involve the R groups of each amino acid in the chain. These, these interactions include hydrogen bonds between polar R group, ionic, ionic bonds between charged R group, hydrophobic interactions between nonpolar R groups, and covalent bonds. First of all, let's know about hydrogen bonds between polar R group. Hydrogen bonding between side chains occurs in a variety of circumstances. The most usual cases are between two alcohols and an alcohol and an acid, two acids, or an alcohol and an amine or amide. In giving the structures for various examples, the backbone of the protein fragment will be represented by a short helix with only the side chain structure. Examples of amino acid side chains that may hydrogen bond to each other. Ionic bonds. Second point is ionic bonds between charged R groups. Salt bridge result from the neutralization of an acid and amine on side chains. The final interaction is ionic between the positive amino group and the negative acid group. Any combination of the various acidic or amino acid side chain will have this effect. Now, let's know about the third point, that is hydrophobic interactions between nonpolar R group. The hydrophobic interactions of nonpolar side chains are believed to contribute significantly to the stabilizing of the tertiary structure in proteins. This interaction is really just an application of the solubility rule that likes dissolve likes. The nonpolar groups mutually repel water and other polar groups, and the results in a innate interaction of the nonpolar groups for each other. Hydrocarbon alkyl group on ALA, VAL, LEU, and ILE interact in this way. In addition, benzene, that is aromatic ring, on PHE and TY tyrosine TYR can stuck together. Let's know about the fourth point, that is covalent bonds. The R group of the amino acid cysteine contains a sulfur atom, and this sulfur atom is capable of forming a covalent bond with another sulfur atom on a different cysteine molecule somewhere else on the chain. This bond is known as a disulfide bond, and it acts as to stabilize the tertiary structure of those proteins that have such bonds. For tertiary structure, this includes changes in temperature, pH, ionic strength. Since the function of protein is dependent on its structure, and any factor that affects the structure will so affect the activity of the protein. Thus, heating a protein can affect its structure and thus its activity. The disruption of the protein structure by some unnatural condition is known as denaturing the protein. Sometimes this denaturation is irreversible, sometimes it's not. For example, Zillo gels due to the presence of a Zillo protein. If you heat Zillo, you alter the structure of the protein so that it is no longer a gel but a liquid. If you reverse the denaturing conditions, that is you cool it, the protein reforms into its original gel structure. Another common example of denaturation of proteins is egg white. Egg white is made up almost entirely of protein ova albumin. In its native state, the protein is in a liquid state, but if heated, it forms a solid. Unlike Zillo, this transformation is irreversible. Determination of tertiary protein structure. X-ray crystallography. X-ray crystallography is the most common tool used to determine protein structure. It provides high resolution of the structure, but it does not give information about protein's conformational flexibility. NMR. Let's know about NMR. Protein NMR gives comparatively lower resolution of protein structure. It is limited to smaller proteins. However, it can provide information about conformational changes of a protein in solution. Dual polarization interferometry. Dual polarization interferometry provides complementary information about surface captured proteins. It assists in determining structure and conformation changes over time. The importance of disulfide bonds in the structure of certain proteins is demonstrated by hair. Hair is made up of protein alpha keratin. The particular structure of your hair, that is straight or curl, etc., is based on specific disulfide bonds that naturally form in the hair protein. The disulfide bonds are covalent bonds and thus are very strong. Heating these bonds will not break them, so simply heating hair will not change straight hair to curly. Instead, it is necessary to break these bonds chemically, reform the hair to the desired shape, and make new disulfide bonds to maintain new shape. Let's know about quaternary structure of proteins. The quaternary protein structure involves the clustering of several individual peptides or protein chains into a final specific shape. A variety of bonding interactions including hydrogen bonding, salt breeze and disulfide bonds hold the various chains into a particular geometry. Enzymes composed of subunits with diverse functions are sometimes called holoenzymes, in which some parts may be known as regulatory subunits and the functional core is known as catalytic subunits. Example of proteins with quaternary structure include hemoglobin, DNA polymerase, and ion channels. An example of a protein with quaternary structure is hemoglobin. In hemoglobin, one protein binds to oxygen while another binds to carbon dioxide. This is how one protein can serve two functions. Enzymes can consist of a single protein or multi-protein subunits. Holoenzymes are those with several subunits. Each subunit of a holoenzyme has a different function. For example, one protein subunit may be the regulatory subunit. Enzymes can also be referred to as multimeric. Another protein subunit may be the catalytic subunit. Another name for a protein with quaternary structure is called a multiprotein complex. Macrotubulin, which act like highways in your cells, are multiprotein complexes. A protein hemoglobin is made up of 4 polypeptide chains, 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains. The beta chains of normal hemoglobin has the amino acid glutamate in the 6th position. The chain form chain from individuals with sickle cell anemia, however, has the nonpolar amino acid valine in the sixth position. The remainder of the 146 amino acids in the chain are the same in both individuals. This single chain in the primary structure of the protein alters the structure of the hemoglobin so that it does not work correctly and causes severe anemia that can kill. There are two major categories of proteins with quaternary structure, that is fibrous and globular. Fibrous protein and globular proteins. Let's know about fibrous proteins. Polypeptides form polypeptides form long chains running parallel to each other. These chains are linked by disulfide cross bridges, making the proteins very stable and strong. Fibrous proteins have structural functions, keratin in skin and hair. Let's know about collagen. Collagens are found in bone, cartilage, tendons and ligaments for tensile strength. Beta-plated seed structure of silk is the result of the interaction of many individual protein chains. Specifically, hydrogen bonding on amide groups on different chains is the basis of beta-plated seed in silk proteins. Other fibrous proteins such as the keratins in wool and hair are composed of coiled alpha helical protein chains with other various coils analogous to those found in a rope. Other keratins are found in skin, fur, hair, wool, claws, nails, hooves, horns, scales, beaks, feathers, actin and myosin in muscle tissues. Actin and myosin are in muscle tissues and fibrinogen needed for blood clots. Let's know about globular proteins. Globular proteins may have a combination of the above types of structures and are mostly conclumed into a shape of a ball. Major examples include insulin, hemoglobin, and most enzymes. Molecule forms a coiled shape, that is globe. Hydrophobic group points into center of molecule away from water. अब अच्छा only hydrophilic groups are exposed outside the molecule, so globular proteins are soluble. So globular proteins are soluble. Globular proteins have roles in metabolic reactions. Enzymes catalyze metabolic reactions.